Hello and welcome to another episode of Ask Enzo. If you haven't seen the show before, it's basically me asking Guardian Enzo a question about something related to the anime industry or Japanese culture as a whole. So this week, the question I want to ask Enzo is related to the term Doujinshi or Doujin manga. So Guardian Enzo, what exactly is Doujin manga or Doujinshi?
Okay, well, it's an interesting topic because it's really kind of very foreign to the way the business model works in the West, and it shows how different the industry is set up because Doujinshi, in a word, are fan comics. That's what they are. And they are comics written by fans, often fans of existing fandoms, such as Shingeki no Kyojin, Idolmaster, any of those, Kuroko no Basuke, Haikyuu, whatever the case may be. And they're not done with the consent of the original publishing companies. They're not done with licensing fees to the original publishing companies. And in fact, I think our instinctive reaction in the West would be to say, this is intellectual property theft, yada yada, it's a problem. But the fact of the matter is, I think maybe at one time there was some consternation in the industry, the manga anime industry, what should we do about this? But over time, which is ironic because Japan is still incredibly backward when it comes to things like fair use and things like that. But when it comes to this, the anime industry and the manga industry and the visual novel industry realize these people are doing us a hell of a lot of good. And so, in fact, the way the industry has developed now is many, I won't say most, but many professional manga artists who write for Shueisha or Kodansha or any of the big manga publishing houses are literally recruited from doujin circles. And in fact, there are many doujinshi writers, many manga writers, like Akamatsu Ken of Negima Yukio Holder, Love Hina fame, who still writes doujin. There are many established professional mangaka writing doujins under a different name. Sometimes it's an open secret, sometimes it's not. But sometimes they do it because they want to write hentai, and they don't want to do that under their established name. But sometimes they just want to be free to write whatever the hell they want and not have to answer to an editor. So there's a very collegial relationship now between the manga publishing industry and the doujinshi industry. And in fact, every year at Comiket, all of the major publishing houses go to Comiket and they scout. And they sometimes know who they're looking for. Sometimes they go to the tables and they look around and they look for talent. And when they find a talent they like, there's actually an organized time set aside now for these guys to sit down with these doujin artists and say, hey, are you interested in maybe doing something on spec for you want to enter a writing competition? Do you want to maybe do a one-shot for monthly jump, whatever the case may be? And a lot of them get their start this way. In the West, we tend to think that a lot of doujin, if not all of them, are 18-plus doujin, hentai doujin, and that certainly is probably the single biggest piece of the doujinshi industry, but it's not the only piece of the doujinshi industry. There's a whole wide range here, from all ages stuff aimed at kids, hentai porn, everything in between. There's a doujinshi industry for established anime and manga franchises. There's a doujinshi industry for Toho Project, which is somewhere in that nebulous region between being official and unofficial. There's doujinshi that are totally original. They're the people writing their own stuff, but they just don't have contracts with publishing houses, so they do it for a circle. How do these people make money? They sell their doujins. They sell them at Comiket, they sell them at Komita, they sell it at various doujin circle events during the course of the year. And in fact, when you go into a place like Tora no Ana or Mandarake, which are famous anime-themed bookstores that sell doujins in Japan, you'll see official manga on one floor, and then you go up a couple floors and you'll see doujinshi that are attached to the same series. So it's a very interesting and a very unusual relationship that exists between the doujinshi and the official projects. But at this point in time, at least, and I don't think this is ever going to change in the near future anyway, it's definitely a coexistence. The Comiket, the Doujin event, the world's largest Doujin event, has a big hall where all of the big publishing houses and Visual Arts and Nitro Plus, they're all there. They're all there with their own commercial booths selling their own stuff. So they really are all tied together. So before I go on, one of the things I keep using this term Doujin circle, Doujinshi circle. So it would probably be good for just in case some of the viewers, listeners are not familiar with this term. What is a Doujin circle? Often in Japan, just called a circle. And really, all a circle is a group which creates doujinshi. It could be 3 people, it could be 10 people, but it's a group. The group will have its own name, like the Blue Heron or whatever it is, and that group typically they'll either create doujinshi that are focused on one specific fandom, like Yaomushi Pedal or Kantai Collection, or it could be several different fandoms that are kind of related, like maybe this group does Haikyuu and Ginga Kickoff, whatever the case may be, or it could be a group that does all original stuff that has kind of a similar theme to it. So that's really what a circle is. And sometimes a circle is built around a famous artist like Naoki Hisaya, who was one of the original scenario writers at Key Visual Arts. He wrote the scenario for Canon. That was like his most famous work for them. He also worked while he was with them, and afterwards he was part of a doujin circle, and I think that circle kind of revolved around his involvement and his presence because he's well known, and his involvement in that circle was not a secret. But then sometimes a circle can just be 3 or 4 different artists who work together. Sometimes it can be one artist and a couple of different support people, or it could be an artist and a writer, because as you know, in manga, if you watch like Bakuman, whatever, often you have a different person doing the art from the one that does the writing. So any one of those things are possible, but that's a circle. And typically what you'll see is a doujin event, one of the weekly events, one of the smaller ones, you might have 25, 30, 50, 60 circles that are either all writing around the same fandom or similar fandoms. And then at Comiket, of course, you have hundreds and hundreds of circles there every day, and they're grouped by category, more or less, geographically by category, and then they'll break down the circles attached to a certain type of fandom on a Friday, another type on a Saturday, and another type on a Sunday. And essentially, this is really, I think, the single biggest difference between anime fandom in Japan and anime fandom in the West, because there's fan fiction in the West, but there is no mainstream doujinshi culture in America or even Europe the way there is in Japan, I don't think. Like, for example, I went to Anime Expo, as our viewers may know if they watched that video a couple weeks ago, and there's a thing there called Artist Alley, which is a big deal. They take over an entire parking garage there at the LA Convention Center, and it's a great thing. I have some video from it. If you care to see it, you can look at that on our Anime Expo video. But it's not doujinshi. There may be a few people there with a few fan comics, but really it's mostly jewelry and shirts and wall scrolls and posters and sketches, and that's the big difference. It's true that a lot of these things feature existing characters, and in theory, I suppose you could see Viz or somebody like that go in there and try to shut people down. They don't, I think, because they realize that it would really be a counterproductive move. But there is no massive pool of talent there doing strictly comic books, which is what you see in Japan. And when you think about the sheer volume, over half of I don't know if you've ever seen the anime or read the manga Dengeki no Honyasan, which is set in a very, very thinly disguised version of Toranoana in Tokyo, but over half of the real estate in that store, which has visual novels and it has published manga and it has merchandise, all of the above, but over half of the square footage in that store is dedicated to doujinshi. So this is a big business in Japan, and in theory it's a big business. It's making a lot of money off of the official licensed product, but it's allowed to do this because it creates a fandom, and it's in creating that fandom that everybody wins. And one of my long-standing theories, Setsuken, has been that if you want to know which anime series are going to sell well on Blu-ray and DVD, you need to go to Comiket and see which anime and manga series are selling well on the doujinshi floors. Because if an anime or a manga series has a lot of fandom in the doujinshi community, it is almost inevitable that that series is going to have a big fan community supporting it on Blu-ray and DVD, because these are really the same people as a rule buying them. For example, Kantai Collection was a series that I knew next to nothing about, and then I went to Comiket one year and saw literally hundreds of circles dedicated to this thing, Kantai Collection. And then I knew when that anime came out, I said, oh, this is going to sell incredibly well on disc, and indeed it did. You'll see the same thing. The big names at Comiket these days are stuff like Haikyuu, which is a huge seller on DVD. So this is very much a direct relationship, and it's in creating these fan communities that everybody makes money. And these artists make money by selling their doujins for $3, $4, $5 at these doujin events and selling them to Toranoana and Mandarake. And the company makes money because a fan community is built around their franchise, and they sell them discs, they sell them Blu-rays, they sell them DVDs, they sell them T-shirts, they sell them hug pillows, and all the above.
All right, so that was Doujin and Doujinshi. Thank you, Guardian Enzo, and thank you for watching. If you liked the video, just like it, subscribe, leave us a comment, and we'll see you next week.